Hi, Leslie. Thank you so much for taking out the time to share your experience with myself and others. And
Yes.
before we dive in, I'd love it if you can share where you're at in the country and what does your firm specialize in?
Yeah, so I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, the metro area, and we specialize in accounting, bookkeeping, and fractional CFO services.
Awesome. So, what was your biggest challenge or problem in your firm, Leslie, before we actually had our first call? Like before you maybe reached out, what were you really struggling with in your firm?
Probably the biggest thing I was struggling with was confidence on sales calls. I would have a lot of leads, but actually closing the deal was probably the biggest struggle.
Yeah. So how many leads did you get and how many clients did you not enroll because you couldn't close the deal? Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
so I probably had 10 to 15
Yeah.
leads, and I closed one of those, which pretty low percentage there.
Yeah. So what was the moment you decided to do something about it? And you said, I can no longer continue to have these low percentages and I wanted to get more clients because I know you're also in a job and you want to go full time in your firm. So share with us a little bit about your thought process on when you originally reached out.
Yeah, so it was actually November of 2024, and the biggest catalyst I believe is didn't want to be in the same place at the end of 2025 that I was going to be in at the end of 2024.
Right.
So I said I have to make a change, and I was like, I have a strong accounting finance background over 20 years, and I said the one piece I'm missing is marketing and sales. And I said to actually marketing, you can get help with that. But I want to be able to close sales myself.
Right. So what had you, I'm curious,
Mhm.
focus on the sales piece first versus the marketing? Because I think a lot of people, the biggest thing we get over here is, oh, Michelle, we need help with more leads. And it's like, well, we don't do marketing. So what had you say, you know what? I first need to invest in my sales process and learn how to close these clients before I invested any more time and effort in getting help in the marketing area.
Yeah, so I recognize I'm a very self-aware person, and so I was like, I've spent money on marketing, but I haven't spent any money on the sales piece. So I just
Mhm.
basically counted up the investment I've made on the sales piece, I mean, on the marketing piece, and said, what if I put that into sales before? If I had done that before, where would I have been? So I just said, you know, this is the time to change that one piece in the puzzle.
Yeah. So, what was your main concern in evaluating our 8-week sales mastery course and working with us here at the Abundant Accountant for would this coaching program and sales training work for you?
Yeah, so the why it worked for me and why I signed up ultimately when I met with you is it was a process. And I think accountants think in process speak versus, you know, trying to be salesy. I didn't want to come off as a salesperson. And it's something that I wanted to just be able to voice my value. And
Mm-hmm.
that was an important thing that that you said on the original our original call is, what is your value? And this is what the course really helped me with.
Yeah. And did you have any concerns when you were evaluating working with me and my program and my team? Or did you
Oh,
have any objections that came up for you when you were, when we were having our conversation? Because I know you, I think you found me on LinkedIn.
mhm.
So I'd love it if you could share that with other firm owners, like what went on in your head and how are you making that evaluation knowing that you wanted to invest in your sales process, but did you have any doubts like, is this going to work for me?
Yeah, I was very doubtful going into it. I was like, I'm such a not an introvert, but I have my days. I'm kind of up and down. And I
Yeah,
was like, I just don't believe this is going to work for me. I'm just not a salesperson at all. And so, and the investment of it because I'm new to this.
yeah,
And so that was my biggest concern is I knew I had to come out of pocket for the actual investment.
right.
And so one thing I've always learned is to invest in yourself And when you're not good at something, you seek help from somebody that is good at something. So I really had to convince myself I was worth the investment.
Well, you convinced yourself on our first phone call when we were going through it. So, congratulations on doing that.
Mhm.
Um, so, how would you say things have been creating your sales process in your firm and in just the last 8 weeks of working with us? What would you share with another firm owner that might be like you, more introverted, needs a process, hasn't invested totally in themselves in the past? Like, what would you say has been some of your biggest successes and what you've created in just the last 2 months?
Yeah, so I think my biggest success was actually knowing my worth and value,
Yeah,
and then also actually coming up with a sales process, putting on paper what do I think is my client's pain
yeah,
point. That was, I always thought of it as you have to sell your services
mm,
versus selling them, that you can overcome, that you can solve their problems. So
correct.
that was the biggest things that I think changed in my sales process is just working with them to solve their problems versus trying to sell, you know, budgeting and forecasting, which I think nobody can sell.
Yes. You're like, what are you talking about? So, how
So
much more excited and optimistic are you now about closing leads that you have coming in or investing in marketing now in the future after working with us here at the Abundant Accountant and going through our 8 week sales mastery course?
yeah, so I actually shortly after completing the course, I actually enrolled in a new marketing program to do some social media marketing and have scouted another potential marketing program for after that. So,
Yeah.
actually, I'm very confident to just start getting on the phone and start closing deals. I
Yeah.
have no actually, put my binder together, put a nice cover on it, and I actually have no hesitation
Yeah.
versus I think I would be sweating bullets before every sales call before. And so it's just eliminated because you have something already written down, a process, it actually just eliminated that fear.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that.
And
So,
go
so
ahead.
now you don't have that fear. You're not going to be sweating bullets when you meet all these new prospects and leads. You have a process from start to finish, from the time you get the lead to the time you get paid, and then you can go through your onboarding process. Now, being in the program, looking back to yourself 2 months ago before we even spoke, when you saw something I posted on LinkedIn, what would you tell your younger self about this program 90 days ago? What would you say?
Um, just do it. It's it's valuable on so many levels, but I think the psychology of it is the most valuable thing is
Mm.
to gain confidence. It's just, like be having a therapist is
Yeah.
something that you have to work through so many
Yeah.
prior hangups. And
Yeah.
so I would tell my younger self 2 months ago to just take the leap. I had a birthday pass and start the next year of my life just more confident and in my abilities. And so I would just tell myself it'll probably be the best investment you ever make in your business.
Love it. Oh, thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing that. I'd love it if you could share also. I know that you have more confidence now. The fear is gone because you have your process in place. You're not sweating bullets. But how did you feel overall about your sales conversations before when you met with 15 leads and only closed one? Versus how do you feel now going into it with all of your new leads that you're going to have coming in from your marketing?
Yeah, so I feel like the biggest difference is having a workflow,
Mhm.
and knowing, when to follow up with leads and just having a process and a workflow where before I think I just, had a PowerPoint deck and kind of went through it with the, services I would provide. So I really
Yeah.
just didn't have any confidence because I'd actually just didn't know what I was doing. So I think now I just feel just with the workflow and the actual process in place that I feel like, if you just follow, the process, you can't fail every time. I just feel like, it lifts your closing rate to at least 50%. just
Oh,
because you
for
know
sure.
what to say and do. And plus, when people come to you, it it's, they're already looking for somebody versus, having that desperation versus abundance mindset. So I think that's the biggest thing is a mindset shift to
Yeah.
abundance versus desperation.
I love that. Well, thank you, Leslie, so much for sharing and taking out the time to share your experience with other farm owners who might be in your shoes. Is there anything else you would love to share with someone who's really serious about taking their farm to the next level? They don't want this year to be the same next year, just like you, that maybe you wish you would have heard in one of these videos.
Yeah, so I did a lot of training going into this process on, sharpening my accounting skills, bookkeeping, tax skills. And I would tell somebody who has as much experience as me, instead of spending the money and time on that, do the things, spend the money and time on, the abundant accountant, a marketing program. So that's what I would have told myself a year ago when I got
Mhm.
started is focus on the things you're not strong at versus trying to become better at something you're already good at. And, accountants, everything's always changing. So you have to research half the time anyway. So just focus. Yeah, exactly.
So
Focus
true.
always on, where you're weak.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And now knowing and going through the sales process, what would you say about doing a sales process first before investing in marketing and getting help in that department?
Yeah. Because none of none of that works. Nothing works without closing
Yeah.
leads. Yeah, you can get leads, but it doesn't work if you can't close them. Even in the marketing I'm doing now, it's a group setup too, and I hear so many people. Oh, I had 30 leads, so the marketing program's working great, but I only closed two of them. So, you have to know how to close the deal. And that's the most important thing because it actually gets money in your bank account.
It's
So,
the first
the-
thing on your P&L, top line
yes,
revenue, right?
it's revenue. Yeah, and cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every,
Balance sheet. Top thing
yeah,
on your balance sheet, top thing on your P&L.
exactly. And I think,
Well,
as accountants and finance people, we focus so much on, oh, this is the expenses are this, but the biggest thing is you can't pay those expenses without cash flow.
yeah.
And everything's good on paper so you don't have cash to pay your employees and everything else. So, especially somebody who has a very established firm, the biggest thing I would say is to get more cash flow in your business.
Yeah.
So, that's the
And
biggest
sales
change.
and closing and converting new clients and upselling the current clients is the fastest way to increase cash flow, right?
Yes.
Yes,
And retaining and also having a sales process and an onboarding process
to retain.
helps you retain clients. It's cheaper to keep the clients you have than try to go out there and get new clients.
100%. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for taking out the time to share your experience with myself
Yeah. Okay,
and
no
with others
problem.
that are considering enrolling in our 8-week sales mastery course. So thank you for taking out the time.
Okay, thanks, Michelle, for everything.